I think we're ready to rock and roll, as we say in the business. All right. You were just listening to my wonderful friend Pete Townsend. He's done a couple of solo things lately, and it's really great. That was him. He does an amazing thing, by the way. When he writes the music for The Who, this has happened forever, he writes the music, but then he plays it. He has a studio. He has a Steinway piano, every instrument you can think of, and he's a great drummer. He's a great guitarist, as we know. Plays bass. He does all the backup vocal. It's him. And then he makes a tape, and he gives it to each one of the members of The Who. That's how they learn this stuff. It's been going on for years. So, been with him. I was with him for, oh gosh, it's about 8 years. One of the really pleasant things in my life. Well, thanks for coming. We're going to get started here. We're going to talk about lots of stuff, but mainly things to help you improve your transmit and your receiving. It's been kind of a dormant thing that receiving audio has been kind of hid under the rug. Of course, transmit was until about 2000. I was commissioned by Dr. Inouye, who owns ICOM. He had seen one of my EQ 200s. How many people have ever seen that little box? How many people have it? I know you're not going to maybe agree with this until you find out about it, but that one little box changed ham radio. I was on the road for 12 years. I was So to get you in tune with what's going on, I'm going to run through this slideshow until we get up to some of it. And this is what started it all. That was my first station, Harvey Wells. That was an SX99 and an RME 152. That was a converter for 6 meters, 2 meters, and 220. Now we're talking 1956 here, ladies and gentlemen. Over to the left, I really hate it, all these 60 years later, there's a little box with a meter on it. That was a 6-meter transmitter with a 2E26. It was one of my very first projects. I hadn't been a ham maybe 6 months, and I built that. I just love building. You'll see the 1957 handbook laying there, the red one. I still have it. Anyway, that was my first station. It started it all. It grew pretty quick. Because one night, about 3 weeks into my ham radio career, I heard the weirdest signal on 6 meters. I couldn't figure it out. My gosh, who would put such a distorted signal on the air? And I hit that, I'd never used it, I hit the BFO switch. And all of a sudden, it just happened that it was exactly on the right frequency, and that voice come out. And I'm going, oh, wait a minute, idiot. This is that single sideband stuff I'm reading about. Now you understand this is 1956. It did not happen. Sideband was not on the air in a big way. Just a few little tinkerers. Well, here was a tinkerer listening. I'm going, what is this on 6 meters? And every night I'd meet this guy because I was one of the only guys that would talk to him. He said, they won't talk to me. They don't know what I'm doing. At the same time, I was playing the organ at the Fox Theater. Now, I know what you're going to say about that, but it has everything to do with you and ham radio and me. I was playing that every night. I was only 15, 16. I didn't go to school very much, just whatever days I needed to be there, because I had a pretty good career going. I was making more money than my teachers. And I told this guy that I was talking to on the sideband guy, I said, would you build me one of those? No, I can't do that. He said, why don't you come and see me though? So he gives me his address. And the way it would go when we were doing this, the movie would last about 3 hours, and then I'd play for 8 minutes. So I had 3 hours to kill in St. Louis. I roll up in front of this address, and it's KMOX-CBS radio. Larry Burroughs, K0DGE, was the chief engineer for CBS. I just couldn't believe it. I go in there, just a little kid, I just, whoa. And then, would you build one of those single sideband transmitters for me? Oh no, I can't do that. But I'm gonna teach you how, and he did. And a year later, I was on the air. Back to this a little bit. There is how I learned to listen. Listening is an art. And I'm very disgusted that not a lot of people listen. They only hear. What I mean, there's so many harmonics. There's so many little things going on behind the fundamental that you're listening to, and especially audio from music and ham radio. There's so much behind, but we aren't listeners. I was taught how to listen. That was my first one. We had to tune and voice that crazy pipe organ that hadn't been played in 20 years. Stan Can, the great organist there, took me under his wing to do some of his substitute work. And we also, after the show closed, we'd go in and tune the organ. And he taught me how to listen, voice these pipes. Those are actual trumpet bells. That's a brass trumpet. That's one. The rank in front is a little canura. That's 2 ranks. These are like, anywhere up to 90 pipes. That organ had 36 ranks. You figure it out. Thousands of pipes. And so we had to go voice them so that the one right beside the other, as you went up and down the keyboard, they'd all sound the same. One wasn't muffled, one wasn't sharp, one wasn't flat. Tuning was no problem. Anybody can tune. You don't even have to have a good ear, but you know when they're in tune. But listening for the harmonics was an art. I didn't know it was going to be the basis of my career, actually 2 careers later. Well, I quit playing, and I come back home and I opened this little music shop in Marissa, Illinois. 2,000 people. I was selling Hammond organs. And I didn't know, I really didn't know what was in front of me. And one day this guy comes in, he said, there's a music shop, right? You fix things? Yeah, what do you got? He said, I got my Fender. I said, your Fender? That's not on the front of my car. No. He had a Fender amplifier. And this is so weird when I tell people about this. I didn't know who the Beatles were. I didn't know who the Who. I didn't know anything about that music. I went deadhead into theater organ. George Wright, Jesse Crawford, because that's all I did. It was my life. Still is, but it got joined by other things. However, this kid had this Fender. So what's wrong with it? It was broke. I figured, probably made it go to 12 and it only goes to 10. I turn it upside down. What is it? Whoa, a pair of 6L6s and a 5U4. That was what was in my Harvey Wells modulator. Well, I know all about this. So I go back in my junk box. Wow, had it. Plug in 2 tubes, plugged in the rectifier. You're gonna have to fix the screen resistor because it probably took those 2. I happen to have a pair of 27K resistors. Hams don't throw anything away. You guys all know that, right? He was amazed. He said, what, this is great. And you didn't even have one of them schematic things. No, I didn't have one of them schematic things because I knew that circuit backwards and forwards. And it started the whole thing. Kids came to me like REO Speedwagon, Michael McDonald, Danny Fogelberg, all of these guys. They were in high school. They weren't known by that yet. But they had some guy with a soldering iron, and my word got out that there's this weird guy in Marissa, Illinois that'll fix it for you. And that's what started my career into that market. It was crazy. But I started building sound systems for them. I'd go out to hear them and had these little stupid columns with 4-inch speakers in them. Well, that was good for 1940. But you go to these arenas today, wait a minute. So I did it. I did some big things. But then in 1972, I get this call. That you, Heil? I said, yes, sir. Who's this? Is it Clips here? Paul Clips? Yeah. How many people know about Paul Clips? He was the father of the folded horn. He was the father of hi-fi. And oh man, I could be here for hours telling you some of the things he did with audio. But he had a weapon for the war that he built in 1938. It was a 16-foot horn on the back of a flatbed semi, and it would do 5 cycles. And you can say, what's that for? When you walked in front of it, you couldn't hear anything, but you like, whoa. I've never tasted beer or smoked a cigarette. Believe me or not, I'm running around the biggest drug addicts in the world in those days. But Townsend always put it cool. He said he can drive the truck, and I did. But it would, I guess, being like drunk, your whole equilibrium was all messed up with that big, powerful, low frequency. It was going to be a weapon in the war. And before he had it all perfected, the war ended, thank goodness. But he said, wait a minute, this would be great for audio guys. So we started working together. He taught me so much, and I try to pass it on to everybody. I hope some people take this and run with it. I was thrust in learning the science of audio by him. He directed me to the study of Bell Labs. How many people know about the Bell Lab studies? See, that should have been a second question on our ham radio test. I don't understand who does all this. It's all about our hearing. And the telephone company started, they ran 2 wires from New York to California. And when they turned on the first telephone, it was terrible. The first telephone system sounded like this. It was terrible. It's like, do you hear me okay? No. It's weird sounding. No articulation. Well, all the frequencies are right. All the voltages are right on the line. What happened? It's all okay. Then, well, they just couldn't figure it out. So they put these 2 little genius guys, Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson. How many people know about Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson? Again, that should be question 3. Oh, honest, I'm telling you, I get really ticked off when everybody should know about those guys. You go home and study it. Today it's easy, Google it. In those days, we had to go to the library. What they did is they found out that there was a lot of things going on with our ears. And so, in doing all of that, they came up with how our ears work. I don't care, you can tell, oh, we have flat response, I have great hearing. Yeah, but we all have the same deal. The way the canal is in your hearing system, that is how you hear. Now check it out. Down here at about, we're doing about 30, 40 dB. Look at the big holes. It's not flat. I have to laugh at some of these audiophiles that don't know about that. That stuff's all flat. I don't need that damn EQ. Yeah, right? But your ears do. Your egomaniac brain doesn't, but your ears do. Here's an interesting thing, though. Look up at here at about 110 dB. We're almost flat. So when you yell at the kids for running their audio so loud. There's a reason. They can hear all the cymbals. They can hear all the vocals. They can hear all the bass. It's pretty flat. That's why they do it. So they aren't crazy. They're just trying to get everything they can out of their music. We continued on, man. We built some monster sound system. It's all fiberglass fronts. Paul Clips just turned me into a maniac when it come to all that stuff. But hundreds of concerts, hundreds in those days. And we're still doing them today, only today, like Joe said, you're going to do it on the other end of the wire. We're doing the microphones for them. I sold that company in 1980, but everybody in the world, they were after us. And of course, Joe was the ringleader because he was the first one. We had done a couple of concerts at Heil Auditorium in St. Louis for some country acts on Sunday. And one of the managers came up, he says, hey, could you take some of that on tour? I never did a tour before. He said, I got this new act, and I want them to really be good. And I think you are the guy to help me. Okay. So we go to Ohio for 6 dates. It was the James Gang. The second day in, the second show in, we discovered we were ham radio operators. Our lives have always been changed. We've been the best of friends because the thing with Joe, he's very technical, and especially in those days, and he wanted to do things, but he's playing and singing. There's a 3-piece group. Man, he was a big part of it. Now I had some guy, all he had to do was this or that, and I kind of knew what he was doing. And many, many times he'd be singing, and I'd go up beside him, and he'd do this, do that. And we both learned about things that we could do. It was a wonderful thing, but from there it went crazy. There's Jeff Beck, ZZ Top. I have a great picture. I might have it in here. I did ZZ Top when they didn't have beards. Really. And we're still with him. Of course, Peter Frampton. Everybody know about the talk box? Oh, yeah. It was quite a deal. I built it for Rocky Mountain Way. Joe and I put it together, and I gave one to Frampton for a Christmas present, and that kind of made his career. Again, he's a very, very good friend, and really does. I hear a lot of interviews, and he always says nice things about me and giving that Christmas present. I came back into radio after 12 years. What is going on here? It's like, what happened to my great Art Collins audio of 15 years ago? Well, the imports came in. They were all muffled. They weren't articulate. But Heil, it's got a matching microphone. Oh, bull. The only matching about it is it's painted the same color and it's got a name on it. Trust me, you've been fooled for years. I got a matching microphone. Yeah, but it sounds like crap. Well, Will says I sound good on the morning nets. Yeah, well, Will doesn't know how to listen. So when you dissect things with your ears, it's like, that sounds pretty bad. I did something about it. I built that little EQ 200. That was a simple little 2-band EQ at the right frequencies. See, that's the thing. I'll go to Best Buy and buy me an equalizer. I don't need your crap. Really? When you buy an equalizer like that, it's going to be for music. Those filters are set. All you can do is raise or lower them. The bottom filter's usually at 80 hertz. The top one's at 10K. A lot of good that's going to do you. You need it only from about 300 cycles to 3K. That's it. You have no control in there. So you're just kidding yourself when you go buy these equalizers. Oh, I got a 12-band. I got it. It's for music. So I did something strictly for ham radio. The low frequency on that was set at 160 hertz, plus or minus 15. I could notch the bass, get rid of it. Underneath, it's gone. And the top, and I learned this from Paul Klipsch. I learned this from Fletcher Munson. I learned this from Bell Labs. Our ears, to understand the spoken word, has to be between 2 and 3K. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're trying to do. We're talking about science. To understand articulation, you have to have that frequency. And you're going to say, oh, it's a bunch of crap. Well, listen to this. I just took out 2.5K. How do you like that? Sounds like your MC50. No, I'm serious. All I did was took out 2.5K. You're going to tell me it's not important? It's everything. We're going to bring it back up. 2.5K, here we go. Hello, 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 1, 2, 2, 2. Listen to the articulation. The balance is there. So you're doing any equalization, balance is important. You set the 2.5K, everything under it and above it has to be balanced. I hear so many guys on the air. You guys don't listen. You're just putting stuff out and you all sound like this. Hi, how you like my new whatever? I got $2,000 worth of processing. Ain't it great? Yeah, but I can't understand you. Well, then you don't have a receiver that's wide enough. No, my receiver's always going to be about 2.5K. Yeah, you need to get it broader, and then you can understand me. No, because if I had it broader, that's going to give me more bass. I don't want any bass. I want to get rid of it. So I do. When I do that, beautiful things happen to the articulation. It did change the amateur radio world. It became the cover award. I didn't even know they did cover awards. And just amazing things. Then wait a minute. Why don't I build a microphone that did that? And so from that day forward, all of my microphones have that beautiful 2.5K. But I did a really crazy thing. The North California DX Association came to me and said, we want you to build us a headset. Because they were using, I don't know what they were, Supros or whatever, and doing everything, putting cotton on it, doing all kinds of crazy things. They didn't understand how to do it. So I built this element. It was the worst sounding element ever. The HC4, look at it. Had 10 dB spike. I should have brought one and let you hear. It's just awful. It's the worst sounding thing in the world. But all of your power is at 2.5K. Let me tell you, the DX crowd loves them. It's their secret tool. Because think about this. You're this wide. I'm running a 4 kilowatt. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, all of this stuff down in the low end doing you no good. We just learned that. So why don't we get rid of it? And we don't need anything above about, 2,500. What we need is all of that 2K. And so it has a 10 dB spike passively. So all of the power that you had here wasting is now here. So your signal is a giant signal at 2K. Oh, there's nothing down here. There's nothing. I don't want anything up there. But it sounds terrible. I get called down a lot. That's the worst darn microphone I ever heard. Yeah, it is. Go talk to the guys that's worked 350 countries. Ask them what kind of microphone they got. They've all got HC4s, HC5s, because that's their tool. It puts all of their power right there. But nobody talks to you about this. And so then we got into tailoring the transmitter. We increased the speech articulation. I just proved that to you. Lower the distortion. Listener fatigue is a biggie. A lot of people don't think about that, but you just, after you listen to so many of these bassy, boomy MC50 things, it's like, whew, I got a headache. Yeah, you do. So Dr. Inouye came to me in 1999. I'm thinking of a new transmitter. I send you a picture of my station. This is the president, the owner of ICOM. He sends a picture, and I should probably bring that sometime, put it up, with my EQ200 and my Goldline microphone and his IC781. Remember that great transceiver that had, it was the first one, it had an actual CRT screen in it. I absolutely almost fell off the chair. We're talking about the president of ICOM with the equalizer. But see, he understood. He says, I would like to have you help me. Not that they couldn't do it. They've got engineers. But he said, you have already done it. From the Pro 1 all the way through to the 7610 has our EQ 200 in it. A year later, here at Dayton, Dr. Hasegawa, who owns Yaesu, said, hey, well, I want to do it better. So I did a parametric EQ for him. Now, parametric EQ is a toughie. I told you, you set the engineer sets the frequencies of a regular equalizer, what we call a shelving equalizer. You can't change that. But the parametric, you are the engineer. I told him then, you're going to have a lot of trouble. What would be the trouble? Education. What do you mean? I said, you have not one control, you have 9. You have bandwidth, frequency, and plus or minus 3 times. It's a toughie. Well, he didn't do it, but we did. I picked it up. How many people looked at my website to the All Things Yaesu, the All Things ICOM, the All Things Kenwood? Have any of you seen that? Please go there. You'll learn a lot. There's pages and pages and pages that will help you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to help you understand what's in that box you paid $10,000 for. And it's really sad. How many people here have menus in your radio? Okay, now, please, nobody's going to take your picture. Nobody's going to beat up on you. How many of them are still in the default mode? Uh-huh. You know why? It's really sad. Nobody has ever set you down and helped you. That's the saddest thing. And the manufacturers are the trouble. I thought they would do something, but they didn't. So we have to do it for them. And if the pages don't help you, 618-257-3000 is my phone number. Call me. Or better yet, send me an email. Ask a few of these guys. Ask Jim right there. Do I answer all your emails? Sometimes at 3 in the morning, right? I do, and I really feel sad. I had a guy yesterday really beat up on me. I'll send you an email, and you didn't answer. Well, you know the internet. I said, if you don't get an answer in a day or so, you send it again. The internet's crazy. But anyway, that's where we are with all of this stuff, trying to tailor things. So then I'm going, what the heck are we going to do about receiving? You have a $15,000 transceiver. You have a $400 transceiver. You have a 1 watt, pay attention, 1 watt at 10% distortion and a 3-inch speaker. Oh, I got the matching speaker. Yeah, it's that 3-inch speaker in a box painted the same color, and they charge you $150 for it. You still have that 1 watt at 10%, and you have never, ever seen a spec sheet on the audio out of any transceiver because they're embarrassed. They're not going to publish that. Trust me, I work with these guys. I'm bitching at them all the time. So I did something about it. I just couldn't handle all of this junk they had out there. You heard the importance of speech articulation. 2.5 case, where it's at. The F, the difference of an F and an S and a P and a B is so important. Well, what about the receiving? So what I did is I did something about it. And that something is really starting to make some headroads. At first, everybody looks at it and says, oh, I don't need that thing. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So I have one hooked up here, and let's see what we can do. First of all, does anybody have one yet? Am I lying? Is it probably one of the most important things in your station? being able to understand what you hear, right? That's where it's at. Okay, let's hang on to that. Send me on the phone. Okay, thank you. I have my personal roadies here. I've had roadies all my life, and I never realized when I got into ham radio that I was going to have more roadies, but I did. Wow. Well, let's see if I can make this all work for you. I recorded these from my receiver. I did it flat. In other words, no EQ. It's the way you hear it because you don't have any EQ. If you do, it's just minor. So let's see if we can make this thing go, and we'll get her cooking. Got to get it flat. That's how you hear that. It's hard to understand. Listen what happens, 2.5, here it comes. This is an MC50, mushy. I know, Bill said you sounds great. No, you don't. So we're going to dial up 2.5K. That's all I'm bringing up. There it is again. All I'm doing is 2.5K. Listen to it. It's unbelievable. That's the way you hear it. That's the way I hear it. How many people know about the D104? Remember that? Well, let's make it a real microphone.
At about 30 words a minute, so I speeded up the pace, and sure enough, I can copy it. I had a gut lost on the other night.
There it is, flat, the way you hear it.
At about 30 words a minute, and so I speeded up the pace, and sure enough, I can copy it.
It's all about equalization. Let's just, one more time. Listen to that DX signal. This is flat the way you hear it. Here comes 2.5K. So all I'm doing is 2.5. I'll take it out. I kind of have fun with it because you probably know hams are the most negative people in the world. They can find fault. If I brought Marilyn Monroe in here and sat her on that table. But you know what? Not a single one of you can go out of here saying, I didn't hear any difference. You're going to go out of here saying, holy smokos, I need one of those. Let me tell you the rest of it. There's 2 headphone amplifiers in here. So you can have a logger and you can have the operator. Pretty great, separate amplifiers. However, we have a little piece of goodies that come with it. It's a splitter. You take your stereo headphone, any of them, and it comes out with 2 mono signals, the left speaker and the right speaker. You plug that into these 2 and you can balance. If you have a hearing imbalance, most of us have had too many birthdays. And we all have a little problem hearing and a lot of imbalance. No problem. Balance it up. It also has record out. And what a cool thing. I didn't think about this. I loaned the prototype last year, field day, to a club near us. And I went the next day to check on them. And they had a Fender guitar amp out there. And I said, what are you doing with this? He said, yeah, well, watch this. They came from the record out into the Fender amp. You see, when you do field day, we don't think about anything but ourselves. You call in the media, you call in all the people, come and listen to what fun we're having. You got on a pair of headphones, you know what they hear? Nothing. And if you talk, they don't know what you're talking about. Hey, all you do, push the monitor switch. All the receivers or transceivers today have a monitor switch. So your audio comes through the speaker. You take this out of here, plug it into that Fender guitar amp, and whoever's here can hear both sides of the conversation. It was really spectacular. Macoupin County Ham Radio Club. It was wonderful. I never thought about that before. So you see there, you got people thinking. I love people that think. So you really want to get into what's going. And the other thing about it is the speaker. Remember I told you about Paul Klipsch. Paul Klipsch was a great mentor of mine. Many, many, many hours and trips to Hope, Arkansas. He taught me, we were building those big speakers you saw. He taught me how to tune a speaker to a cavity. That's very important. Because if you don't do that, you have phase distortion. And phase distortion is awful. You don't know it, it just doesn't sound as good if you didn't have it, but you probably never heard it without it. So you have to take the speaker outside in free air, do a cone resonance, and then you tune the cavity to that speaker. It's wonderful. Have a 3.5-inch tweeter, titanium tweeter. But here's another great part. It's 25 watts at 0.1%. We're talking hi-fi levels here, gang. Hi-fi levels. Yeah, well, I know hi-fi. Yeah, but I don't want any distortion. And I don't have any. Why do you need 25 watts? Because I want lots of headroom. I only use about this much instead of this much. It's beautiful. But nobody talks about this in ham radio. It's all about, oh, how loud will it go? George Wright was my great pipe organ teacher in those days. George, when I got with him, said, I'm going to teach you how to play this thing loud. Just take all the stops and do that. But he said, I'm going to teach you how to play it good and loud. Same thing. I want to listen to that audio from that signal that you couldn't understand. I want to hear him good. He doesn't necessarily have to be loud, but all of this does that for you. So we're very excited about this product. You'll come by the booth. I'm going to be there all day and play some more with it. But I'm so thrilled because I've helped. We've got about 400 some of them in the marketplace now, and I'm getting just all kinds of people that are hard of hearing. They have hearing aids. One guy wrote me a letter, and I kept it, about 2 months ago. And it almost was unbelievable, and I'm not going to deny it. I had to have a little cry afterwards. He said, all of this stuff with my ears have taken my ham radio away. I haven't been on the air for several years. One of my friends bought your new system, and it gave my ham radio back. That makes it all worthwhile, because that is only one of the stories that there are going to be thousands of, and I really mean that. When you get into what's going on here, you're going to see what I'm talking about. We did the same thing with the microphones. Joe Walsh had a great idea. He said, you need to build, I built a lot of microphones and stuff in the early day, but I didn't do it, ham radio, we've been doing it since actually late 70s. I didn't do anything for the broadcast industry. Who in the world is going to do anything up against the great Shure and the great Electro Voice? I'm just a little ham radio operator. But I had Joe set me down in his kitchen. He said, do this. And I did. We developed the first large diaphragm dynamic. This microphone is amazing. What the broadcasters love about it is the pattern. It's omni on the front. If you're not paying attention, I'm 90 degrees off and you didn't hear any change. Try that on your Shure. Try that on your Sennheiser. Try that on anything. Can't be done unless it's an omni microphone. This isn't an omni. What's so very important is the rear rejection. This is the first and only microphone that has 40 dB of rear rejection. When I talk in the back of it, you hear nothing. Oh, it still works. Oh, I've had a lot of guys, oh, Heil's just got a micro switch when he turns it upside. No, no, no. No, no, no. And how I did it was all about phasing. I wish we had a lot of time. How many people have ever heard my phasing demo? Everybody should hear that demo. It is just unbelievable. And I think we're just right up against, no, we might have a couple of minutes. Let me see if I can pull this off. See if you can help me, guys. Let's plug those into channel 2 and 3. And do I have my little connector? Yeah. Where's my connector? I think it's in the other bag. Yeah. Yeah. Here's the deal. I learned how to do this from antennas. I'm a nut for antennas. I have a phased array on 75 meters. Yeah, put it in there first without. And I can do 10 to 15 dB front to back on 75. Think about it. I did it because my new station and my new home that my sweet wife Sarah bought for us is in the Ozarks, just north of Springfield, Missouri, out in the country. She said, this will be great for your ham radio. Yeah, I got the meadow filled up with wires. I wanted to talk to my California buddies on 75 meters, and you're going to, you can't do that. Really? You come to Pleasant Hope, I'll show you how to do it. I can move my signal from New York. Nothing. About 40 dB down. What? They still work. Not together. This is not a magic act. This isn't something for you to smile about. It's something to me to be sad about because you don't know it. And so you don't know when you have things in and out of phase. You don't know how gorgeous you can do with a pair of wires and about $10 worth of a coiled coax. Look at my QRZ page. It is something I'm adamant about. Spend time. It's all there. K9EID. Look it up. There are a lot of things, but the one you want to look at and spend a lot of time on, the whole little diagram, and it's real simple. Anybody could do it. I wish we had more time. My gosh, we run over. I'm so sorry. But there's so much science to go, and I'm so excited about this hobby. I'm going to be 79 years old in October. I look like I'm 50 and act like I'm 12. And I have so many people every day asking, hey, man, what keeps you all pumped up? What kind of drugs you on? Trust me on this, I take no drugs. I don't take aspirin. I don't take anything. Never have. I am very blessed, but I've never tasted beer. I've never smoked a cigarette, all of that stuff. So it's all about having fun. There is nothing that gives me more fun than ham radio. The only thing that's a little better is when my ham radio is done with Joe Walsh. That's another story. Bye. Thanks to my great roadies here. We'll see you in the booth.